Dear viewers, dear ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to welcome Professor Heidi Keller to our podcast today. We would like to learn more about your research, dear Professor Keller, and the goal and the mission of your projects. Could you tell us more about the research that you perform?
Yes, I'm basically interested in the interplay between biology and culture for human development. And I'm focusing on the preschool period with preference of the first year of life. And I have studied for many years children in their natural environment, in their daily activities, and seeing how cultural emphasis work on the biological predisposition. So my interest was or still is in children's culture-specific development, and I'm deeply convinced that there is a common repertoire of biological predispositions, but that they are very differently culturally enacted, so that most of the research that we can find in the social sciences, and particularly in developmental psychology, which is assuming a universal cause of development, is mistaken. And I have always tried to counter argue to this universalistic stance in developmental psychology, and emphasizing the cultural specificity of behavioral development. And I equally think that it is important not just to watch behavior, but also to understand the local ideas and assumptions. And this is why we favor multi-method approaches and combine observations with all kinds of interviews and group discussions in order to assess the local meaning system.
Yes, working with such preschool children coming from different cultural background is difficult and can be compassed on because of several reasons, and one of them can be language, right? How do you overcome this barrier? Could you tell us more about the projects you have?
Yeah, we were basically videotaping and in situ recording ongoing daily activities in which infants are involved with the persons who are regularly taking care of the infant. And of course, there are all kinds of problems. The first difficulty is getting access to communities. We worked in remote areas in the northwest of Cameroon, or in villages in different Indian states in Central and South America, but also in urban environments and in many different European, Euro-American, and also non-Western urban environments. And in all the different areas, you need to have different social conduct codes to follow. And this, of course, is only possible if you are collaborating closely with local people and get the instructions from local people. And also, in many cases, we were working with interpreters, translators, with bi or multilingual people from the particular communities we were working with. But several of my students also spend large amounts of their time in different research sites, and they also learn the local language. And there are many more difficulties if you want to assess behaviors. You have particular instruments that were all developed in one cultural environment. That's the Euro-American, as it is usually called, or Anglo-Saxon scientific word, and that may not apply for many different reasons to people in very different cultures. For instance, when you work with small children, you often use color stimuli, but there are different conceptions of color in different cultural environments, or there are different understandings of what is important for children to develop first. And so we have to do a lot of basic ground research first before we can assess behaviors. And also the interpretation of behavior, what looks similar may have completely different meanings, and what looks completely different may have a similar meaning. So it's a lot of sensitivity needed, but it cannot be done without close collaboration with local people.
Sure, that is very helpful. Do you work with children across all the cultures and across different languages? You mentioned several African countries. How about the rest of the world?
We kind of selected the cultural environments according to particular criteria. So we differentiate socio-demographic context. That means we assess the level of formal education. I mean, education was acquired in institutions, and the age of first birth, the number of children, and the household composition. And we form particular milieus out of these socio-demographic contexts, and we try to identify, and this often happens then by chance, particular contexts that fit these criteria. So we wanted to have these urban middle-class contexts in different countries. And as I said, we working in many European countries, in India, in Cameroon, in Costa Rica, in Israel, in many different places. And we were looking for urban, traditionally living contexts, which have a completely different socio-demographic profile. And we were happy to have those cultural groups working with us in the northwest of Cameroon, as I said, in different parts of India, in Costa Rica, and also in collaboration with colleagues from Brazil in several Brazilian villages. So we try to identify those contexts, and then we are looking for possibilities of collaboration, and that happens to be possible, for instance, for us in Cameroon and in India. Meanwhile, in recent years, I concentrated my research activity in Costa Rica. We had a big project that ended by the end of last year, and we have still a big project in Israel. In both countries, we can find many different cultural contexts with very different socio-demographic profiles and different ways of life. So it's important to have a common understanding of what you are comparing, so that this is not an arbitrary process.
Sure. So you do the videotaping of the kids in their environment. Tell us more on the methodology that you're using. What happens after those videos were recorded? How do you decode them? Which methods do you use downstream in the process?
Yeah, we also worked with different methods. One is a quantitative approach that we developed codes and analyzed in a microanalytic procedure, the on and offsets of behaviors that we could statistically look at contingencies, at time latencies, on overlap, on duration, and intensity, and all those quantifiable measures. But we also have done a great deal of work with qualitative methods, with analyzing the content and discourse analysis of what people say, and also of the videos. So that means there need to be several coders present, local coders always at the center, and discussing the meaning of particular behaviors. So we basically use both quantitative and qualitative assessment, and both are very time consuming and very intensive, and a lot of work, so that we never work with huge samples. So we have, if we are lucky, we have 30 families participating, but of course we have hundreds and thousands of individual data then.
Sure. I guess you also need a help either of statistician or the data center to store all these recordings and the information, and also the parts of those data pieces to be processed. Do you have such help on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I had a big lab here in Osnabrück, and we had all kinds of computer-based programs with which we were analyzing the observational data and also the interview data. Yeah, we had different systems with which we were working and still do. For instance, Atlas is one of the interview or language-based analysis tools, and there are different. There are different interact or other observational analysis methods. We see patterns and different kinds of combinations of behaviors at the same time, co-occurrences, and see what the interactional partners do in synchrony or in contingency, or whatever pattern is apparent.
Sure. Talking more about the outlook, the perspective, as well as the impact of your research, could you share more details on the impact of your research findings?
Yeah, they are from two sides. One is that they are important to inform the social and developmental science, so that the knowledge base is a different one than what we usually find in textbooks. That is a scientific part, but there's also a very important applied part with a large ethical component. So that means that the results that we have found are very important for in diverse applications, and there are several ones where I'm particularly active in. One is the educational field, in that I'm training kindergarten teachers and instructing ministries and other policy makers about the cultural specificity of education, so that these can be implemented in practice, where also mainly the idea prevails that there is one definition of good quality, of good education, of good parenting. So we're working in this field. Another very important field is child custody and child placement, because there is still a huge injustice in the system, in that parents, mothers, fathers are assessed according to the parenting quality of Western middle-class behavior, and particularly refugee or migrant families in Western countries often lose their children and become involved in year-long battles to get their children back because their educational agenda and their parenting behavior is different from what usually middle-class Western quality standards would imply. Particularly attachment theory is causing a lot of damage here. And also in the third area, and this is these large-scale intervention by UNICEF, World Bank, and other big international agencies, also NGOs and private funding institutions who apply on a large scale Western middle-class parenting to remote areas of the world. And also this is a big ethical issues, not taking other cultures serious and devaluating the parenting practices, ideas, and quality standards of other cultures. And it's also, an enormous amount of money is being wasted in these programs. And they also, it's interfering into cultural systems. And with a group of colleagues, we are very active in this field also.
Thank you so much for this information. Besides that, what we already have spoken about, do you have some other significant information that you feel it is important, but we haven't spoken about it yet, and you would like our viewers and listeners to know about it?
Yes, I think it's very important to realize that every one of us has a particular specific culture. And a lot of this is implicit, so that we take for granted and we think that this is normal, but it's our culture. And other people have other cultures and they think their culture is normal. So that means if we want to understand other cultures, we need to start with understanding our culture. And if we are working as professionals, we need to make our culture explicit and be aware of our culture so that it doesn't interfere with our perception of other cultures. I think that's very important.
Thank you so much for this. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.